Okay, as Pee Wee Herman would say. It's time for another installment of Name the Tool. Oh, come on, just tell us what it is. I don't want any of those long stories. I'm sorry you had to see that, but it had to be done. I have a different style than everybody else. I employ giving you information and an actual story attached to a tool, a circuit, or whatever. If you don't like the way I do my videos, go somewhere else. Now, this is a vintage tool, okay? I will show you the more modern versions of this tool. But as you can see, it's brass, and you take these ends off, and what you'll see there, hopefully it's in the frame, it's a collet, okay? And each collet is a different size hole, and what it's for is like holding a deburring tool, a drill, or in some cases, if I got the right end, you might want to put a 256 tap in here. And why would you want to do that? Well, whenever you tap a 256 hole, after you drill the hole, you want to feel your way through the hole. And you want to go in a little bit and then come back out. Make sure it's straight at a 90-degree angle. You don't want to break this little tiny tap off in the hole. Now, if you use a regular tap handle, I don't want to have to show you a tap handle. Okay, you should know what it looks like. It's very awkward when you do the very tiny taps. So that's where you would use a pin vise. This is a pin vise. This is a vintage pin vise. Now, where did this thing come from? Okay, I worked at this company called Wilway, and they had circuit boards there from Western Electric. And the circuit board was steel, and it had fingers on it, the connector fingers. You slide it into a connector, and it was steel. It was coated with like enamel, and then they silk screened the printed circuit onto it. It might have been a two-step process. In other words, first they put this paint, and then they electroplate it, and that leaves the traces. And what would happen is when they were silk screening it, it would get splatters, and there would be shorts between the traces. So into this tool, they would put little miniature surgical blades, and the girls would scratch in between the traces and remove the shorts, and they were called scratchers. And this unit would be covered with tape and band-aids because it would hurt their hand. They would sit and scratch for 8 hours a day, and they had to do so many circuit boards a day. Now, the girls were always afraid that their favorite pin vise or scratching tool, they didn't know it was a pin vise, would get stolen. So they'd take it out on break time, and they'd sit outside smoking their cigarettes or whatever, and they'd set it down on there was a wall there. They'd set it down, and it would fall behind or in a crack. And then at 4 o'clock when I would leave, or 8 o'clock at night, depending on, I would spot them. And I took them home. And they made up a story that I was stealing them. They're pretty close. And what happened is, after I had so many of them, I brought them back to the company. And then I stood them up in front of the boss and told them where I found them. And they were all like, that's where mine went. That's where, and I laid them out, and they took their tools. Well, one of them nobody wanted. Okay. And this is it. And it's a pin vise, and it's a vintage pin vise. Now, the next step from this was you get sucked into one of these. I have 2 of these. Just to show you, I have 2 of these. Sometimes you like to load it up with 2 different tips. And this is a general tool, and it's terrible. As you're working it, if you put any real pressure on it, using this top spins, you can hold it like this, and it seems like a good idea, but this keeps unscrewing. Okay, believe it or not, this comes loose and works as well. Now this one's missing a collet. The thing in there is called a collet. It's not called a vise. Okay, a collet is a vise and a pin vise are the same thing, but in this case, the thing inside there, all right, that is different hole size on each side. Let's see if this one, yeah, this is a full one. If you look at it, I should have my light on. Let me put my light on. You should have had that done already. I'm going to get the fly swatter out. Oh, I'll be quiet. Okay, we'll put the light on. And, come on. There we go. Okay. So now, you can see it on each side. There's a different hole size, and in some cases you'll need two of these because you'll be working with two different ones. Now, like I said, you could put a tap in it. You could put a razor. All right. You can also put like just a pin, and a pin is used to drive another pin out in some operations on aircraft stuff. And in some cases, you may just mark, use a regular sewing needle and put it in the pin vise and use it for starter holes on a balsa model or some type of plastic model you're working with. Okay? But that's what these are, pin vises. Now, it doesn't stop there. Later on, you get these other ones that came out. Okay? And in some cases, you can take you buy yourself a set of files like this. Alright? And you may want to use, I'm disabled now. I cut my fingernails. I can't move as fast as I used to. In other words, you might want to use one of these. If you pick the right one, you put the, okay. I know, that's why you're saying, why is that so long in the back? Well, here you go. This is a file, and you use this as a handle in a pin vise. Okay, I'm showing you stuff you don't see on the other videos. People, they have them so well done. Their editing is great, but the content's terrible. And the thing they got is brand new. Okay, and they're showing it to you and blah blah blah. I'm showing you sort of like the history and how I got to where I was, and I wish I could find my old one of these, but we're switching to what we call this, Exacto Knife. Now this is an actual Exacto Knife, and it has a retractable tip, and you click this and that tip comes out, and this is for modifying circuit boards. You cut the trace in two places, take the tip of this and get under it and peel it off, and then you'd put your mod wire and maybe a dead bug type socket on there and rewire the circuit board, so it would work with another piece of equipment, or it would fix some type of intermittent bug that was in the design. Okay, but that's where this came from. All right, now that's one. Now I could show you Exacto sets. I have those, but I want to tell you, the last few years Exacto sets don't hold the blade tight enough for me. Okay, so I bought this. I think this was from Blick, an art craft place, and this tool actually holds the blade really tight, and you can do some really hard work with it. Okay, but it hurt my hand, and I looked around and I found this, and this is from a woman's, what is this, Westcott? I saw this thing on a woman's art and craft place. So this is soft and it holds the blade really good, and I bought one of these. Well, after buying this one, I just happened to be in Harbor Freight one day. They had a whole set of these. Okay, and this thing is used a lot. This has just the right feel for me. Other than this is kind of squishy. This is just the right feel. I can grip it hard enough, I can control the tip of the blade, and I can cut really hard with it. Okay, and that's what I want. Now let's go back to the pin vises. They go really small. All right, look at this size. This one. All right, this one. And these are tools that a guy that's really into stuff uses. Now, this one comes with a story. Oh, not one of those stories. Okay, this one here is a Starrett, and it holds really tiny drills. And what I use this for, I mark a little mark on a piece of steel or a piece of plastic, and it's going to be a very tiny hole. I don't want to distort the metal using a punch, so I mark it, and then I take this in my hand and I work this little drill bit, which is very sharp, in the spot where I want to drill my hole, and I work it until I can turn this around a couple times, and then I put it in the drill press and I drill a precision hole. Okay, but this was under a door. I had to clean out this factory, and there was a door that wouldn't open and close. So one day, I took the hinges off the door, and this was underneath the door. Someone had forced the door back over this thing. Now, normally, whenever I clean when I was cleaning the building, I was doing it for that engineer I always mentioned that lived in my neighborhood. And he would just take anything I found and keep it. He didn't use it, he'd just keep it. He was a hoarder of everything, okay? And if you ever talked to him about anything, he'd say, I think I have one of those somewhere, you know? And he couldn't find it, so it didn't do any good. And that's what I always try to preach to you. If you have tools and you can't find them, what good are they, okay? And then if you buy so many tools, you actually forget what you bought. Now, this is the granddaddy, okay? Now, this is actually a chuck on the end of this. Now, I don't know if you want to call this a pin vise, okay? But this thing, this gets used a lot. And this gets put away with this here drill size is the size for making holes in perf board for the mounting bolts. Okay? So it's always set to go. Because I'm always working with perf board. I'm always putting holes in the corners of perf board. Like we'll show you real quick here. Here's a huff and puff corner hole. There you go. Okay? And you'd say, you make that many circuits? Absolutely. I have boxes and bins of circuits that I've wired up point to point. Okay? That's how I roll. These other guys, great lighting. They have a better camera than me. They go out and they buy something, and then they come back and do a video about it. I've years and years of collecting, you know, like this. I was at a company and we used this, and then the blades weren't in stock anymore. So these guys started chucking these things. I said, I'll take it. So I got 2 of these, and I went to a place. He set his building on fire, so his wife couldn't get it in the divorce settlement. It was in Nutley. I can't think of the name of the place, but I stopped in and talked to him, because I'm a draftsman. I learned how to do mechanical drafting, electronics, and I would go buy different things that he had there, leftovers. Like I'll go into that stuff at another time. And I want to show you this real quick. Very few people probably got this far in the video. This thing. You're like, what the hell is that? Okay. Now, most men don't know what this is. Okay. And some of you do. A woman invented this. And you put this, you take the trap screen off in the bathtub, and you put this down in there, and it pulls out a shrunken head. I don't know if you ever did a bathroom drain from the top. You get a shrunken head out. There are some houses to design you can do the trap from the next floor down or the cellar, but this thing really works. And these holes, or whatever, these half moons, they're sharp, and it really catches the hair. Okay, use this 3 times already. It works. It works 1, 2, 3. It gets it the first time. But I just wanted to show you, you know, a vintage pin vise. You know, there you go, vintage pin vise, and then the more modern pin vise, and then the junk one, U.S. General. You know, U.S. General. I don't know if they're in business. They had a store on the highway, and these used to come in a package, one of them packages that hang up on the wall, the pegboard wall, and you could get these things in a blister pack, like a Channel Lumber at Lowe's. But if you can't get a pin vise anywhere else, this is what it is. You'll see it in the package. You're like, so that's what that is. And you open this up, and you don't realize that there's a different size on the other side of this. Let's call it. Okay, you don't know that. You know, and then some of the packages in the back, they might explain what this is, but most of the time you're supposed to know what this is. But I do recommend this Harbor Freight one. Like I said, this cutter tool. It's an Exacto knife. Really works good. It's got the right amount of pressure. You can get into the blade. It's not squishy. It took a couple tries. I went from an Exacto knife set that I got on eBay that was fake. Then I bought a real Exacto knife set, and they just didn't hold the blade right. Then I went on Blick. I think it's Blick. And they made a guarantee that if you bought this Exacto knife, it would hold the blade, and it does, but it hurts like hell to work with this for more than an hour. And then I went to this thing, a little squishy, and then Harbor Freight of all places. Okay, I think that's it. All right, that's it. So how's your head? Oh, you got me really good.